Hey guys, welcome back to Flicks Recap. I'm Luke, and today we're covering the 2012 psycho thriller House at the End of the Street. The movie's about a mother-daughter duo who move to a new house in hopes for a fresh start, but the events of the past grapple them. Before we start, be sure to drop a like, leave a comment, and subscribe to Flicks Recap if you dig the breakdown. And as a quick reminder, this video contains spoilers, so you have been warned. The movie starts with a young girl walking up to a bedroom, murdering the couple sleeping there, and then running away into the woods. On a bright morning, a woman named Sarah Cassidy and her 17-year-old daughter Alyssa move into their new house. While looking around the house, Alyssa realizes that their house overlooks the house where a couple was murdered. Later in the night after dinner, Sarah falls asleep while reading magazines, but she's woken up by noises coming from outside. Sarah walks up to her window and sees a light go on in the neighbor's house, where presumably no one lives. Sarah's a little shaken, but she returns to her bed and sleeps. The next day, Sarah and Alyssa are invited to a Sunday lunch in the neighborhood. Sarah tells the realtor, Dan, about the light incident. Dan tells Sarah that the son of the couple, Ryan, still lives there. Meanwhile, Alyssa is dragged out to where other kids are, and there she's introduced to Tyler. Tyler and Alyssa quickly become friends. At the lunch, the neighbors tell Sarah and Alyssa that Ryan's sister, Carrie Ann, killed the parents and then ran off into the woods. Alyssa is disturbed hearing the story. It's a Monday afternoon. Tyler approaches Alyssa on her way back to her house and invites her to a famine fund collection meeting. Although Alyssa turns him down at first, but then Sarah calls Alyssa to inform her of her late shift, so Alyssa decides to go with Tyler. Once they reach the place for the fund collection, there's actually a party going on. Alyssa roams around and Tyler follows her to a room where he tries to make out with her, but Alyssa stops him. A little annoyed, Alyssa leaves the party. On her way back to the house, Alyssa is stopped by a car. Alyssa's frightened a bit, but then the guy turns out to be her neighbor, Ryan. Although Alyssa turns him down, it starts raining, so Alyssa has no choice but to get in Ryan's car. Alyssa tries making small talk, and soon the two of them are sharing their stories. After dropping Alyssa off at her house, Ryan goes to his house and starts prepping food. Once he has prepared a decent meal, Ryan takes the food and heads down to the basement to a secret room. The moment Ryan turns the lock, he's attacked by a young woman. Ryan tries to calm the woman by calling her Carrie Ann, and then he injects her with some liquid. The young woman loses consciousness. Ryan seems to be taking care of a grown-up Carrie Ann. The next day, Alyssa goes to Ryan's house to drop off a CD she's made for him. Ryan is a little awkward, but he happily follows Alyssa around as she takes a tour of the house. While she is exploring the house, Alyssa comes across Carrie Ann's room. Ryan tells Alyssa that Ryan and Carrie Ann were little kids playing on the swings when Carrie Ann fell, and as a result, she suffered brain damage. The brain damage made Carrie Ann aggressive, which led to her taking the lives of their parents. Alyssa sympathizes with Ryan and then takes her leave for the day. Later that night, while Ryan is working on his laptop when he sees Carrie Ann running off into the woods, Ryan drops everything and runs after Carrie Ann. Ryan gets hold of Carrie Ann before she's able to enter Alyssa's house and takes her back to the basement. Lucky for Ryan, because he's already invited to Alyssa's house by her mom, Sarah. The dinner is a little awkward. Sarah's bombarding all sorts of questions at Ryan while Alyssa tries to dodge the questions for him. Ryan shyly answers all of Sarah's inquiries and also makes Alyssa at ease. Ryan tells Alyssa that he's grateful for the dinner since no one called him for a meal since the accident. Sarah asks Ryan to not cross the lines and remain just friends with Alyssa. The next day on her way back from school, Alyssa, along with her friend Julian, runs into Ryan. Alyssa asks Ryan for a ride, and since they won't be alone, Ryan agrees. After dropping Julian off at her house, Ryan drives off to Alyssa's house. On their way, Alyssa gets a call from Sarah telling Alyssa that she'll be late. So instead of going to her house, Alyssa decides to hang out with Ryan. While strolling in the forest, Alyssa and Ryan share a kiss. The two of them take their makeout session inside, where things get pretty heated. Meanwhile, the grown-up Carrie Ann makes another attempt at escaping, but this time with a knife in hand. Ryan sees Carrie Ann and immediately sends Alyssa to her house while he sets off after Carrie Ann. Ryan catches Carrie Ann just in time before she attacks a couple. In trying to restrain her, Ryan accidentally kills Carrie Ann. Ryan puts Carrie Ann's body in the trunk of his car and drives off to get rid of the body. Okay guys, quick pause to remind you to comment, like the video, and subscribe to the channel if you like what you see. On with the recap. Once the body has been taken care of, Ryan goes to a diner. Ryan's greatly shaken up by the death of Carrie Ann, and a waitress named Peggy tries cheering him up. Although Ryan has only ordered coffee, Peggy gives him a slice of cake and tells him that it's on the house. Ryan's deeply touched. Later that day, Ryan calls Alyssa and asks her to meet with him. Alyssa tells Ryan to come see her at the singing competition that she's participating in, and so he does. Tyler has heard that Alyssa made out with Ryan even though she had rejected him, and so he, along with his friends, trash Ryan's car. Ryan comes running to stop the boys, but they instead turn on him. Ryan tries fighting back, and then he flees the school premises. But the boys won't leave Ryan until they get their revenge, so they follow him. The boys set Ryan's house on fire and then run away. Alyssa reaches Ryan's house in time and saves it from burning down. While at Ryan's house, Alyssa comes across empty tampon boxes in the bin. Alyssa's confused, and so she takes a round of the house in hopes of finding some other things. Alyssa hears faint rumbling and she follows the noise to the basement. Alyssa opens the door and she's attacked by some girl dressed exactly like Carrie Ann. Just in time, Ryan comes in, restrains Carrie Ann, and tells Alyssa to leave. Quite shaken by her encounter with Carrie Ann, Alyssa comes over to the kitchen sink. While getting herself a glass of water, Alyssa sees a blue lens on her arm. Alyssa quickly takes out the trash and searches for something that offers an explanation. Alyssa also finds Peggy's wallet in the trash. Just then, Ryan comes to Alyssa and asks her to not tell anyone about Carrie Ann. Alyssa promises and tells Ryan she has to go as her mother called. Just as Alyssa is about to leave, Ryan bangs her head against the wall and Alyssa loses consciousness. Alyssa wakes up tied in a chair in the basement. Ryan tells Alyssa that Carrie Ann died when she fell from the swings. His parents blamed Ryan for the death. After suffering many years of abuse, Ryan finally put an end to his misery and also his parents' lives. The revelation dawns on Alyssa that Ryan has been kidnapping women, dressing them up as Carrie Ann, and keeping them in his basement. Ryan tells Alyssa that he wants her, but he also needs Carrie Ann. So Ryan decides to get rid of Peggy and get Alyssa to play Carrie Ann. Meanwhile, Sarah tries reaching Alyssa, but her phone keeps going off. Sarah asks Officer Weaver to go to Ryan's house to check for Alyssa, and so he does. Officer Weaver asks Ryan if Alyssa's with him, but Ryan tells him that he only saw her at the school. Although Officer Weaver leaves, he's not convinced, so he calls Sarah's house phone that directs calls to Alyssa's phone that is still in Ryan's house. Officer Weaver enters Ryan's house again in search of Alyssa. A little hide-and-seek follows Ryan and Officer Weaver that results in Ryan stabbing Officer Weaver and putting an end to him as well. All this time, Alyssa frees herself and tries to escape in Ryan's car, but she fails as Ryan gets a hold of her, knocks her out, and traps her inside the trunk of his car next to Peggy's body. Meanwhile, Sarah gets anxious as she's not heard from Officer Weaver, and so she makes her way to Ryan's house. Sarah knocks on Ryan's door and he opens. Sarah politely asks Ryan if Alyssa is there, but Ryan tells her that Alyssa is not there. Right then, Sarah hears a glass smash in the house, and so she calls out to Alyssa. Alyssa has miraculously managed to get out of the car's trunk, and she responds back to Sarah. Sarah follows Alyssa's voice, but Ryan stabs her. Alyssa tries to get away from Ryan. On her way out, Alyssa comes across Officer Weaver's gun, and it comes in handy when she's against Ryan. Alyssa shoots at Ryan, and he's injured. Alyssa comes near him to grab the keys from his pocket, but Ryan grabs Alyssa's wrist. Just in time, Sarah reappears and strikes Ryan in the head with a hammer. The movie ends in the psychiatric ward where Ryan sits alone, remembering his mother slapping him for insisting that he's Ryan when she calls him by the name of Carrie Ann. Childhood trauma can leave permanent scars on the mind of a child, huh? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And as always, be sure to drop a like if you enjoyed the recap and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss on the next one. Until next time.